What is happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Phillitin Words. Anthony Sanfilippo is here. Where are you, Anthony?
I'm in our media office. We're building a podcast studio. It's almost finished here.
It's very
Uh,
nice. It looks good.
and yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Just not completely set up yet, but at least we have the mic and the table, and figure we can. Why not just use it while I have it? I actually have a soundboard too, Bob. Like,
Yeah. So you guys on your end keep getting more technical and more elevated in your setup, and I'm using a mic from 6 years ago that unplugs itself because I tapped the table too hard. So here we are, Monday morning, August 24th. Phillies win again in one of the more remarkable ways that you will see a baseball team win a game. They've won 9 in a row now. They're 15 games over 500. The Braves did win last night, so they sit 3 games out of the NL East, 2 games behind the Cubs for the top wild card spot. And this team's rolling right now. And they get on a plane and they go out west to Seattle, and they'll play the Angels after that. And they have an opportunity against 2 poor teams here this week to keep things going. And Anthony, I got to tell you, I was absolutely blown away by what we saw this weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the different ways that they won baseball games, all the different ways it went down. Very impressive, and certainly yesterday improbable, crazy stuff right now.
Yesterday was what was really unfathomable about yesterday was that for 8 innings, it looked like they had no interest in being on that baseball field. And then all of a sudden in the 9th inning, it was, all right, let's go win this damn thing. And that's what they did. And it's funny because like I asked Schwarber after the game, and he didn't give a great answer, but I asked him after the game, I said, at what point are you sitting there in the 9th inning going, all right, we can do this? And he's like, well, you're never thinking you've lost. But, it really probably doesn't set in until Sosa's coming up to bat. Right? He said, at that point, I turned to Trey and said, watch him hit a grand slam here. Like that was kind of like, it was kind of like that was the moment where, they felt like, okay, maybe we can do this.
Yeah.
And it's going to get lost in the moment, but, obviously Harper's double to start the whole thing, 2-strike double. That's a big hit. Real Muto's 2-strike single. That's a big hit. And Justin Crawford's walk. Now, to be fair, Riley O'Brien was all over the place in that at bat. So wasn't that, it's not like he was a hard fought walk. But those 3 plate appearances are going to get lost in the shuffle because, Sosa gets the double, De La Cruz gets the hit, also with 2 strikes, and then Schwarber hits the home run. But those 3 at bats mattered more, almost as much, if not more, than everybody else.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I have a note here, and I think to me, obviously, De La Cruz and Schwarber and Sosa at the end there, that's what you'll always remember. But to me, like the momentum starts to build at that point. You could almost kind of feel it, like it was possible. But where you didn't really feel it, and you were still like, this game's over, is JT Realmuto in the box, down 1-2, fouling off a pitch, taking a pitch out of the strike zone, and then lacing the single up the middle. I mean, to me, that was the key at bat of the entire thing. It's not a good matchup. He hasn't been swinging the bat all that well. He's buried in the count. They don't have any momentum, and he bears down and does it. And those little things are obviously what allow, for the moments later in the inning to occur. It was really impressive. I said to you, and I think we all felt it, it looked like they already had a foot on the plane going to Seattle, and I couldn't really blame them. They've won 8 straight games. They've taken care of business in this series. They just didn't really – they were missing 2 starters with Bowman and Arias, who have been 2 of their hotter hitters out of the lineup. Like, things happen, but for them to come back and respond the way that they did, I mean, that was a special moment. You start to collect moments like that, and that's what kind of twists the feeling from, yeah, I know – it's the Phillies, though, too. Hey, maybe there is something here. Maybe there's some reason to believe in this. And you talk about words like improbable in describing what happened. I mean, it's crazy. And I'm sure that a lot of this was said on the radio or on the broadcast and post-game shows, but you go back. When was the last time the Phillies erased a 4-run deficit in the 9th inning to win a baseball game? You had to go back to 2019, the Harper Grand Slam game, right? It's like nuts. I mean, I have a whole list of things here that kind of put into context how improbable that win was yesterday. Like since 1894, the Phillies were 1,182 when entering their half of the ninth inning down by exactly 4 runs. This season, teams entering the ninth down by exactly 4 runs are 4-202. I mean, you don't win that game. You're not supposed to win that game. You're never supposed to win that game. And yesterday they did it, and it was awesome. And I don't know if you saw the stat, but they have 5 wins this season now, trailing down to their last strike. That's crazy. The White Sox actually have the most wins this season, trailing with 2 outs, down to their final out. But the Phillies have done it 5 times down to their last strike. It's crazy.
I feel like I was at every one of those because, like, most of them were in Washington.
Yeah, so there were June 23rd and 24 back-to-back games in Washington. Obviously, yesterday. There was one, I believe, April 30th in San Francisco. And there was one other one mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah, that was the doubleheader. That was the doubleheader, right? The Chase Sugar won both ends of the doubleheader.
So I mean, it's been crazy, and it's funny. We talked about it. How many games have they stolen this year? It doesn't feel like all that many. Well, recently it feels like they're starting to steal a bunch.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to get to this question because I think it's a good question. Derek Allen asks, do we hyper focus on the Phillies when evaluating this team? We say they're not good enough, but I guarantee the Braves podcast are saying the Phillies are a dangerous team that they don't want to face.
Yeah, the answer to that is yes. I mean, that's something I've said many times throughout the history of this show. We watch the Phillies every day, and you see where their flaws are. You see the holes. But most fans, not everybody, but most fans don't zoom out and watch the entire sport. Like the NFL, you sit down on a Sunday and you're watching everybody. You've got bets on games, parlays, fantasy football, all these different games isolated. What's that? Yeah, red zone. I mean, so there's so many different ways and reasons to consume the entirety of the league that even as like an Eagles fan, I think it's almost like the complete opposite, where you're like, this team might not be that good, but Dallas sucks. They gave up 28 points to that offense. Like, you're always able to rationalize in football, like how your team can somehow stack up. Whereas with baseball, I think it's the exact opposite because, the average fan that's really into the Phillies just does not have the capacity to consume the entire league. And so I think you absolutely do that. And that's one thing that I think is worth pointing out here. I don't believe in this team. I don't. Like, if you expect me to kind of like do the 180 today and tell you how I think they're going to win the National League East and win the pennant all of a sudden, like, I'm not there. Like, I just don't believe in this bullpen. I truly don't. And I think it's going to kill them. But am I perhaps overly pessimistic about this team's prospects in this moment? Like, maybe, and I don't even like, I think it's fun. I think it's awesome. This team looks great at the moment. Like, everyone should be excited. I'm not coming in trying to say don't be excited, but like, I personally, like, the last 9 games have been awesome. I'm just not all of a sudden going to flip my entire outlook about what's possible in October, though I will give you some reasons to believe later on in the show.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Bob. And the reason I'm with you is, as great as they're playing right now, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that they're playing mediocre baseball teams, right? I mean, and look, it's not easy to win. That's a
product of this entire sport right now.
It is,
save for 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, and look, the Phillies right now have the 7th best record in baseball. So they are one of the better teams. They're one of the top teams in the sport. And so they're going to play a lot of games against teams that we consider mediocre. And I put this out there with the caveat that it's not easy to win 9 games in a row in baseball at any point, because even the worst teams win 60 games a year, right? Like, I mean, they're going to beat good teams from time to time. That's just how baseball works. But, I think that this offense is feasting on, mediocre pitching. Yeah. And in the playoffs, they're going to be getting top of the league type pitchers that they're going to be facing. Can they do the same thing at that time?
Well,
I think that's what you have to wonder.
I think what's interesting, and it is certainly what you have to wonder, they have not faced elite level pitching for the most part in this stretch. But what you're going to have to do in October, because you presumably have elite level starting pitching, though we will talk about that in a little bit as well, It's, can you move a runner? Can you get the runner home from third with one out? Can you string together 3 singles? Like, teams that slug win in the playoffs. Despite what we all believe here, you need to have some slug in order to make a prolonged run in October. I mean, the numbers just bear that out. Like, you need to be a top 10 team typically, historically speaking, in recent history over the last 2 decades, to be a World Series winner. But what we've seen here in recent seasons with this particular team is its inability to cash with runners in scoring position, to move runners, to play well situationally. And what you're hoping that you see here, and I know you wrote a story about it, how all of a sudden the Phillies are kind of like a death by 1,000 cuts offense. I said to you yesterday, it's insane to me that this entire team's like turned into Tony Gwynn simultaneously. But like, that's kind of almost what does give you some hope, right? Like, well, maybe they can just do enough in terms of volume of getting guys on base that this is a different formula, a different path forward from an offensive perspective. But whether or not they can do that, obviously it remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that I say is why. I mean, you should be in on the Phillies. You should be invested. I'm not telling you not to be invested. I'm not telling you to, don't let your heart get trampled on, because that's part of being a fan. Like, you should be invested. Like, I wouldn't check out on this team just because they've had some playoff failures in the past. That this team can go on a run. I don't think they will, but they can. Like, I watched the Brewers-Braves game last night, right? And it wasn't a great pitching matchup. It was Tyler Mahle for the Braves, and who pitched? Drohan. Shane Drohan pitched for the Brewers. And I watched that game and I was like, neither of these teams impressed me.
No, both of those offenses are
yeah.
See, the Brewers are kind of what the Phillies have been recently, though. They don't slug at all. They get everybody on base, lots of singles, lots of action. Like, that's their path forward. The Braves are supposed to be this like big thumping lineup that just imposes its will on you, and they really have not been that for a prolonged period. You look at their numbers, go take a look at their starting lineup and just check the OPSs and stuff. Like, there's names in that lineup, guys that are just like not quite doing what they're accustomed to doing.
Yeah, I mean, so I said that to say, in a series, could the Phillies beat one of these teams? Could they beat both of these teams? 100% they could, but having the luxury of watching the Phillies 162 games and knowing how they fluctuate from being really good to being terrible, which they were terrible twice during this season, right? The 9-19 start, the terrible out of the All-Star break. Like, that is in them too. That's part of their DNA, just as much as what they're doing these last 9 games is part of their DNA. And so, yes, they could beat any of these teams. They could beat the Dodgers, but will they? And that's the great unknown. And that's why you should be invested to see if they ultimately can do that. I don't think that they will, but that doesn't mean that they can't.
So, if I'm not mistaken, they had a 9-game winning streak last season, right? That occurred.
Yes.
Yeah. So, what they're doing right now, and I want to just kind of set this up. I mean, the last time that they won 10 straight was a part of an 11-game winning streak, which happened back in 2010. Last time that they swept 3 straight series, which they've now done, was September 13th to the 22nd in 2010. And they also did that in 2006, and they swept 4 straight series in 1991. So, like, what you're watching right now is not commonplace. This is not something that, I mean, there's been a lot of really good teams here in recent history, these Phillies teams, but this is not something that happens every year. Like, this is different. It's crazy right now what they're accomplishing. And like, I'm trying to breathe that in, and I'm trying to appreciate the moment here. Like, I said something back, and I'm kind of like grappling with myself a little bit in this moment about this team. Fans should believe. And it would be silly to just like watch a season and be like that guy out in the bleachers in Major League 2 that's like, they'll blow it in the playoffs. So it's like Randy Quaid, I think, is the character,
Yes.
And like, you don't want to be that guy. Like, you want to believe like, hey, like, they can do it. And you want to check the box scores and see what the Braves are doing last night. And, what are the Cubs and Diamondbacks and Padres doing? Like, that's the fun of it. And to not let yourself do that, you're cheating yourself as a fan. And I said in the beginning of the season, because we all had this like Sixers feel like, well, yeah, show me in October. And I made the point, like, watching a team like that, it's stupid. Like, you don't want to do that, because the reality of it was that at the time I believed in early March, mid-March, that this was going to be a 92 win team. I said 92 wins. And I said, if you go through the history of this franchise, go back since the start of 1900, the Phillies have won 90 games 17 times since 1900. So like what you're watching right now, whether or not we're miserable or don't believe in them, you're watching one of the better Phillies teams in history. Like, this is one of the, it's in the 8th percentile of Phillies teams historically, right? Like, so what are we going to do? Just say this team sucks. I hate Dave Dombrowski. I hate everybody. Like, it's just not the way to consume the product. However, if you're coming on this show and you're asking me to tell you what I really think, doesn't mean I'm right. I mean, probably wrong, but I just don't believe that they're going to cut through up, 2 out of 3, whether it be the Braves, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and get like this team's going to be the one that gets there. I wouldn't bet on that. I just wouldn't. So
well, it's funny.
How do you balance those two things, right?
Yeah, it's funny, Bob, because when you think back, right? I mean, baseball's a weird sport in that regard. So, and I'm not trying to use this as justification for this Phillies team is going to get it done when the previous 4 couldn't. But when you look back to the greatest era of Phillies history, which was 07 to 11, the team that won the World Series may have been the weakest of the 5, arguably. Like you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe they're better than 07, maybe, but that's about it. I mean, the teams in 09, 10, and 11.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that this team's better than the 22 team?
Yes.
Okay.
I do. I mean, you didn't have as deep a starting staff in 22 as you have now. You didn't have, well, I mean, the lineup is well, it's about the same. I think the lineup's about the same.
Me, like you're getting you're getting a better version of Kyle Schwarber. I mean, market's better.
Yeah, better version of Schwarber. But I'm saying, like, overall, like if you look at collectively the Phillies numbers from 22 versus 26, I think they're similar.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have the same record at this point in the season, I believe, as well. To a T, 15 games over. All right. So,
but I'm just saying, like, that's what's weird about baseball, right? Is that, you look back and we fondly remember the 2018 because they won the whole thing.
Sure.
But it was not the best team of the 5 years that team won the division. It was not.
No, and I mean, we all know, like, we all know that if you have a functional team with some parts and some upside, it is about how you play once you get there. And can you go on a run? I mean, just go back to what you saw against the Cardinals. Talk about dramatic out-of-nowhere comebacks that blow you away. I mean, that's how that whole run started in 22.
Right.
Please lose that first game on that Friday afternoon and go down quietly like they were the entire afternoon. What do you think happens in that series? Do they come back and win the Saturday night game with Nola on the mound? Maybe. But, like, you just need that one inning, that one break to spark it and see what happens. And so, like, that's why I'm sitting here saying, like, it's not like they can't win the World Series. Go look at Fangraphs. Go look at odds to win the World Series, right? Like, in terms of just, like, based on their formulas, their projections, they're one of the 4 or 5 best odds. Yeah. So what do you do? Sit here on August 24th in the middle of a 9-game winning streak and say, I don't believe they're not going to do it? Like, yeah, I mean, the math is stacked against them. And, like, again, gun to my head, no, they're probably not going to do it. But, like, am I excited in this moment? Yeah. Do I believe in them more than I did 10 days ago? Hell yeah. I mean, sure. You're showing me something here. You're showing some guts, some life. And by the way, like, it's not all just about moxie and momentum. Like, they have a guy who was a reclamation project essentially on the fly, and Andrew Painter, who looked unusable 7 weeks ago, who showed you something on Saturday night that was like a different level, and like, let's get into that real quick, because I said this, I believe, on Friday, but you go through the rotation for 3 months of this season, 3.5 months, and you said to yourself, well, you better win the Luzardo, Sanchez, and Wheeler starts, because when Nola and Painter take the ball, you have no shot. And for a long time, they weren't winning those starts, and often because they weren't competitive. They didn't give the team a chance. But, set Nola aside because we talked about him last week. We all know that it's been a lot better, and great job, Aaron Nola. But in the case of Andrew Painter, what was different Saturday was that he comes up and he throws the game against the Orioles, and you're like, that was really good. That was a step forward, but it didn't look special. It was just a nice step in the right direction. And you saw the start against the Cardinals in St. Louis. He was good and gave them a chance in a game that they had no business winning because they had no bullpen, right? But he gets you into the sixth. He's no hits into the sixth. This is a really encouraging performance. But to me, again, it would just look like a nice step in the right direction to having a usable starting pitcher. Then you go to Minnesota. First inning's a disaster. We said all the nice things about, it was terrible, but at least he kept them in the game. Shows something maybe upstairs is clicking for him. He's not totally unraveling. Possibly a step in the right direction. But what you saw on Saturday night was a guy who looked the part. This doesn't look like a guy who is pitching around having a substandard fastball anymore. This isn't a guy who looks desperately afraid of throwing his fastball. This is a guy who looked like he had a little bit of a special fastball. It looked different. It had more carry, more finish. And then when you see that, you go, well, wait a minute. This looked like, forget the box score, but it looked like a guy who still possesses a high ceiling. And I had not previously, and nobody had previously seen that.
I was most impressed, Bob, with the seventh inning. And it's because he had a really nice start, right? First 5 innings were kind of really solid. You saw a confident pitcher. He was really getting a lot of, getting some swing and miss, really weak. And then the contact was weak contact. Then he has the toughest inning he had was the 6th inning, right? He gives up the run in the 6th inning. And you're thinking, all right, maybe this is, he's nearing the end. So then the 7th inning comes, he gives up the single, and there's the Turner error, right? And you're thinking, all right,
here we go,
right? And then he gets out of it. And not only does he get out of it, but pitch 100 on the night is thrown at 99.6 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That, to me, spoke more volumes than the first 6 innings that he pitched, and he pitched great in the first 6 innings. What he did in the 7th inning was I got into a spot, wasn't all my fault, but here's a spot that I'm in, and I'm going to get out of it. And not only am I going to get out of it, I'm going to get out of it by blowing your doors off. That showed me something more about Andrew Painter than I had seen at any point till that pitch happened.
Yeah, and so what I don't want to do all of a sudden is say, well, Justin Verlander just walked through the door, and from here on out, watch Andrew Painter anchor this rotation down the stretch. I don't think that that's a fair expectation. But now, do I believe next time through that there's a pretty good chance that he's going to allow the Phillies to compete? Yes, and for this season, that's critically important. And oh, by the way, we talked about the looming ghost of Nestor Cortez hovering over Andrew Painter's face. He goes out and does that in a situation where it's an opportunity to send a message I can be this guy. But more important than that, and maybe what's going to be more important than Andrew Painter in 2026 is that you look at it and say, okay, this is a very young guy who threw 99 on his 100th pitch of the night. Maybe all of the physical tools are still there, because I think a lot of us, I know I did. I said, this is a guy that I'm not ready to write off and not say can't be a quality major league starter, but I'm not sure that we're seeing top of the rotation guy given the diminished fastball. And he's not so far, that Tommy John surgery didn't happen 9 months ago. We're a little bit further out from this now. And so I just wondered, is his upside diminished? And now I'm not so sure. I'm not saying that he's going to become that guy, but am I at least somewhat cautiously optimistic that the tools are there? Yeah. And I think that's supremely important moving forward. And that was what was exciting about it. And by the way, I will just tell you, I actually went back and watched the game in its entirety on Sunday morning. I was out at a friend's 40th birthday party on Saturday night, and I had my eye on the game, and I looked up, and it was the 3rd inning, and Jose Fermin came up, and he went 97 upstairs, foul tip, strike 3, and I said, ooh, that looked different, and then I'm watching the game, just kind of keeping tabs on it. I was like, wow, he must have been really good tonight. And when I went back and watched it yesterday morning, I was like, damn, this was better than I thought it was.
Yeah. Now, you know, we've talked about Lance Brosdowski in the past. Guy does from Driveline, does some pitching analysis, and he has a newsletter that I highly recommend that if you can find it on Substack to subscribe to it. It's great. I was talking to a minor league pitching coach who you know very well, who said that Lance is, trust him. He's really good. He knows what he's talking about, etc. He did a whole thing on Painter after the Twins start. He didn't do a write-up after Saturday, but he did a whole write-up about Painter and his stuff. We talked about this on Friday about how the profile was really good, even though he had given up the 5 runs. A couple people were kind of making fun of the fact. They were like, oh, we're going to listen to some analytics nerd about a guy who picked, but the reality was it looked good. So Lance's newsletter came out this morning, and real quick sentence from it. Andrew Painter's fastball looked incredible in back-to-back starts. He's a top 40 arm the rest of the season. So when you think about that, top 40 in the game, that would mean 4 of the Phillies starters top 40. Okay. But top 40 starting pitcher in his mind for the rest of the season.
I think based on what you saw the other night, if you said, and because it's not about the result, it's about the stuff. And like you go back to the Minnesota start, remember we talked about this on Tuesday. Like, hey, he graded out as having the best stuff of any starter that took the ball on Sunday, which is kind of hard to believe. Like he didn't generate a ton of whiffs, like, he wasn't particularly sharp early, but and then there was the story. What's the guy's name that is the NBC Sports Philly reporter? Not Jim, obviously. Cole.
Cole Weintraub. Yeah,
he had a tweet prior to the game on Saturday. It was like, I talked to Andrew Painter after the start against Minnesota. He was super optimistic and excited about his fastball. He really thinks it's coming. And then obviously that translated perfectly on Saturday. And so you start to hear all these things. And you talk to, people like Lance, and it's a great newsletter. You maybe subscribe to it. I think after the 10th time you told me to do it, I finally did. And then you see all of this and you go, well, it's not just me overreacting to, maybe it is. Like maybe we're all getting carried away, but like it's not without foundation. Like there is data to support this optimism. It's not just like, well, I feel it in my gut, like it goes beyond the eye test. So maybe there's something there. And that changes the math on the Phillies trying to cut down the Braves. It probably changes their ability to stack up with a better team in the postseason, whether he becomes the 4th starter, whether he becomes a guy that's able to take away multiple innings in a playoff series out of the bullpen, which is still a very tough ask for somebody to do on the fly.
But the one thing to keep in mind, Bob, is he's kind of sort of done it already. If you recall earlier this season, we had a couple of starts where they
but coming in because you had a migraine against the Diamondbacks in the middle of April.
But they also had a couple where he had an opener, and then he came into the game because he was struggling, and they were like, all right, well, let's do an opener and have him come in at a different part of the lineup as opposed to the top of the lineup, right? And so what I mean by that is that's not conducive to say, oh, well, he can easily transition to the bullpen, but he can get himself ready at a different time period. Doesn't have to be the full 30 minutes before a game, right?
Well, the thing is, if let's just say, let's extend that, it becomes a top 60 arm the rest of the way. My pessimism of the Phillies is just wholly rooted in the ability to navigate the 6th to 8th innings.
Yes.
It just feels like a black hole to me. If he is a guy that they can deploy and go get anywhere between 3 to 7 outs in those innings, that changes everything. Yeah. That would literally be like 2 high leverage ads at the deadline out of the bullpen, like being able to roll that surplus in, and that's where you start to say, okay, your offense has changed its approach. They seem to be more willing to not sell out for power, and that's one reason to be optimistic. The other thing, though, is if they can flip that extra arm and turn it into a guy who can get you key outs in October out of the bullpen, I mean, then holy smokes, then it really does.
It's the
change
Dodgers.
things.
It's the Dodgers model.
Yeah.
The Dodgers won a World Series last year with no bullpen. Like if you were a fan, if we were fans of the Dodgers, everybody watching this was fans of the Dodgers, right? And we were sitting here doing this podcast. Let's imagine the 2025 Dodgers were the 2026 Phillies. We're having this conversation, and it's in August, and you're watching that bullpen implode game after game after game. Tanner Scott was terrible, right? I mean, he was supposed to be their guy last year. It was awful. They had so many problems in that bullpen. We'd be saying that be saying the same thing. And then they went into the playoffs. Now, to be fair, the Dodgers obviously have 8 starters, right? They just have guys come back from injury all the time, and they're ready to go, and they look great in the playoffs. So they have more surplus. But their model was, let's take our starters that we're not going to start games with and use them out of the bullpen. And it worked brilliantly. I mean, Snell came out of the pen, and Glasnow came out of the pen, and Roki Sasaki came out of the pen. Those were the guys that did it. And then obviously in game 7, Yamamoto comes out of the pen, right? So that was what the model was a year ago. And maybe the Phillies look at it and go, in a sense, we could do some of that this time around.
Yeah. Well, they would luck into that because you can't send Andrew Painter down and then say, this was our plan all along. Like the Phillies internally may have had much more optimism about Andrew Painter's immediate future than me or any of us, but there's no way that they thought that he was coming back and giving you that on August 22nd. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. So if that happens to fall into their lap, then great. I hope that they're able to take it and run with it. Since we're talking about the Dodgers, number one, they just swept the Pirates. They got into 80 wins faster this season than they did in either of the 2 years that they won the World Series here recently. This is a really good team. But if you're looking for some hope on the Dodgers thing, and also, by the way, as you said, guys are hurt. They're probably going to get 19 starting pitchers back. It's going to be a different team in October. They have the pedigree. They've been there before. Like, I would take the Dodgers to win the World Series right now, obviously. But since the All-Star break, Phillies have outscored the Dodgers. Same amount of games. They're both 19 and 15, 34 games. Phillies have outscored the Dodgers 175 to 147. Phillies plus 37 run differential, plus 2 for the Dodgers. Batting average 264 to 249. On base percentage 343 to 311. They're out slugging them 422 to 406. OPS 765 to 718. By the way, Phillies staff ERA 376 to 399. Phillies have been same record, but inside the numbers, markedly better than the Los Angeles Dodgers for the last 34 games. Does that mean anything come October? Probably not. But if you're going into this saying to yourself, there's no shot, no chance. And who knows if they even get the Dodgers, right? But like just to say, because that's what this is all about. Nobody believes in the Phillies because of the Dodgers, not because of the Braves or the Brewers, but because of the Dodgers. If you think about it and you say, well, the Phillies have all these veteran guys. They've been in the playoffs every year for the last handful of years. They fell short last year against them, but they didn't get their doors blown off. A lot of it was, I felt, self-inflicted by the Phillies. And you look at the numbers here more recently, it's just like, it's not David versus Goliath, and that would really be my point. And, they're outplaying them right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, regular season to me never translates to postseason. We've seen it many times in the past where one team is markedly better in the regular season and then they lose to the team in the postseason, right? So ultimately it doesn't really matter, but what it is a sign of, and again, this goes back to what we were saying earlier when you talk about when we had that question from Derek Allen, it goes to show that even a team like the Dodgers, who are easily the favorites still to win the World Series and would be the team that I would pick. I picked in the beginning of the year. I would have picked them at the All-Star break, and I would still pick them today to win the World Series. But even a team like that goes through struggles during the course of a baseball season. And could they potentially have a struggle like this in a 5-game series or a 7-game series? Yeah, it could happen to anybody. Nobody is infallible, right? The Dodgers could have the same problem that the Phillies have had. So, I look at it and say, yes, they can beat any team. I believe that the Phillies can beat any team. Will I predict them to go there? No. But can they do it? Yes.
Let's start with this. Okay, so obviously the Braves lose 2 out of 3 over the weekend. They do win last night. They're holding a 3-game lead over the Phillies right now. We know that they play each other 7 times next month. So there's a lot of different things that can happen here. I want to know from you right now, if you had to place a wager on the winner of the National League East, would you take the Braves at -330, or would you take the Phillies at +240?
I'm taking the Phillies.
Okay. Now you're taking the Phillies presumably because of the value in the Phillies here.
Well, yeah, I mean, presumably because of the value, of course. I mean,
can I just do a quick follow-up?
Yeah.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that these two teams had even odds to win the National League East right now.
Yeah.
Which team would you take?
The Phillies.
Wow.
And I'd say that, I can't believe I'm saying that because, we said this before 2 weeks ago. The Braves weren't even in the conversation. Catching them wasn't even in the conversation.
I think, can I just say, like,
wild card, but
can I just say, like, I want to do that too. I would take the Phillies with the +240, no doubt. But head up, like, there's part of me that's like, they are going to win the division, aren't they? But here's the problem. Remember, you go back to the Minnesota series. I just ripped them apart. I was like, this team sucks. I hate these guys. Like, and also they're not worth getting upset about. And then what do you think is going to happen this weekend? So they're going to sweep the Twins. And you said, I agree. And part of that was because I felt like that they were right at the brink. Like, and this team is very good when they have their backs against the wall, unless it's October. But when they have their backs against the wall, they're very good at responding. And I said, and for that reason, this team is pure chaos. They're probably about to heat up. Now that I let myself feel like, maybe they can do it. Isn't this the series where they go out to Seattle? And Seattle, by the way, like, odds makers loved the Mariners, like, up until about 3.5 weeks ago, but they just keep losing and losing and losing.
They were terrible this weekend.
And I know that the AL West is an absolute smoldering dumpster fire, like hot trash truck juice bad. They stink. All those teams absolutely suck, but they're still in it, and they can pitch a little bit. God, they don't hit. But, like, is this not the road trip where the Phillies, they get their football jerseys on and they go out west and they just fall asleep out there and lose 2 out of 3? And then on Friday, I'll keep going. On Friday, we go, well, that's going to happen. You're going to cool off. But then the Braves are going to figure it out. The Braves have been cool. Like, are the Phillies good enough to just stay blazing hot through a very challenging September schedule and also cut down 3 more games on the Braves while doing it? Like,
I think that they stay hot on this road. I'll tell you the series that I think could be that series that you just talked about. I don't think it's going to be the Seattle series, nor do I think it's going to be the Angels. Although, I mean, the Angels are so bad. It's so hard to sit there. But, like, they could conceivably go into that series and kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit and trip up once against that Angels team. I think it's the Arizona series. They don't play well out there. The Diamondbacks are fighting for their playoff lives. Like, that could be the series that the Phillies have a little bit of a slip up, right? And that's the one that I think on this trip, like, they're on a 9-game trip here, Bob. And, like, I look at it and I say, I feel the Phillies are going to go 6-3 on this 9-game series. And I think that they're going to lose 2 of those 3 games to the Diamondbacks.
Wow. So you have a 5-1 week coming up right now.
I do. I think that they keep this going a little bit.
Man.
I do. And then I think it slips up at the end of the trip.
Okay. I mean, look, I don't know. It's been 40 minutes. We've said a lot of nice things about this team. Can I default back to where I want to be right now?
Here which Chris calls the Negadelphia segment.
Yes. Can we get there? I've been waiting. I just say this. I woke up this morning, Phillies -122 over the Mariners. I said, okay, that looks about right. Now I'm looking at it. Phillies -109 against the Mariners. Logan Gilbert, decent arm on the mound tonight. Can Zach Wheeler, like, reemerge for me here this evening? Like, this is – so what I don't want to do is act like it's the NFL and every game's massive. But, like, if you want to believe in a division and a playoff run, like, I'm going to need Zach Wheeler to, like, reappear this evening.
Yeah.
Will the real Zach Wheeler please stand up?
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I think he does. I think he does because the Mariners can't hit.
Would you rather the Phillies win 8-7 tonight and Wheeler gives you another one of these like starts, or would you rather lose 2-1 and Wheeler blows their doors off?
No, yeah. Well, would I rather? I would.
Yeah.
I would rather. I'd rather be impressed by Zach Wheeler.
Yeah, I would too.
Right. But I think you can get a little bit of both. I don't think that they're going to score a lot of runs on Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert's a good pitcher.
The over under tonight is 6.5. I mean,
Yeah. I think that tonight is kind of, but I do think the Phillies look, Bob, they've scored 4 runs in 24 of the last 26 games. Like 4+ runs in 24 of 26. I don't sit there and go, okay, they're just going to be over. Like they're going to get shut down. I think they could score a few runs. I think they might have to scratch and claw a little bit, but I could see this being a 4-2 Phillies win tonight. Like that's the kind of game I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Tonight.
I'll tell you what, if they go 5-1 over the next 6 games, regardless, I mean, certainly Arizona's in the rearview mirror and right there and all that. And that's an important series. And it would be no good to go in there and lose 2 out of 3. But I mean, even if that's what happens and the Phillies come back 6-3 on the homestand, or on this road trip, I mean, that'd be great. If you asked me what would you deem acceptable, I would have said 5-4.
Well,
what you can't have is go 3-6.
No, I would deem 5-4 acceptable too. I just think that when you're going this well, like you don't just suddenly not go well.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's usually a slower decline back to the norm when you're this hot. So I think that they could go 6-3. Look, you come back from this road trip and you got to play the Braves.
I mean, part of this for me is like also not that I have this like, I mean, you go head to head. Like actually, if you pull up all of the head up stats, Phillies Mariners, I mean, they beat them everywhere. Like,
yeah,
there's not one thing that the Mariners, maybe defense. I'll just say pitching and hitting. There's not like one thing the Mariners do better than the Phillies. So you're like, this team is absolutely better. There's like no question. I think they're like 22 games better than the Mariners since May 1st. It's like crazy. But I don't know. Old team, long flight, probably a couple brewskis on the way out there. Like I'm just curious to see how they respond this evening.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you, but I think that this is a team that's ripe for the pick.
Just feeling it. Yeah, okay. I'm in.
I just do. You know what this team reminds me of, Bob? Like go back and look, and they didn't have a 9-game winning streak, but they had a run in August of 23 to get to the same record they are right now. And it was like, I think they went like 8-2 in 10 games or whatever like that. And he started to hit the ball a lot. And you really started to get that's, if you remember, that's when we started to get the feeling that, okay, 22 wasn't a fluke, right? I mean, they were just over 500 or like maybe 8 games over 500 for much of the year. But they could never really break it out. They were just kind of like what this team was for a while. And then they got hot in August and they carried that forward. They didn't have a great September, but it wasn't a bad September. They ended up being like, 5 games over 500 in September, whatever, or from that point forward. This feels like 23 to me in a lot of ways. And I don't know. That's kind of where I envision it. Now, do I think that they're going to go into the playoffs, upset a couple teams, and then get beat by a team that they shouldn't lose to in the NLCS? No, I don't think that's the case, because I think the National League is good, right? Like the National League this year is the 6 teams that get in are going to be good teams. They're going to be 6 of the 8 best teams in baseball that get in, or 6 of the 9 best teams in baseball in the National League. So I don't think it's going to be exactly 23, but it feels like 23 to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You might be right. It's just so funny. Even looking at the Mariners this weekend, like a Rosarena, who I feel like should be on the Phillies, although maybe they don't need him because, Derek Hill and Brian De La Cruz and all that. But like, they have this great win on Saturday, the Mariners. Like Rosarena is awesome. They score 3 runs in the 9th. They come back and beat the Cubs. And you're like, wow, there you go. Like maybe that's what gets them going. And then they show up yesterday. They take a 1-0 lead at Rosarena again, homers early, and then they lose 19-2. So I say that in one way to be like, this Mariners team truly sucks. Like, they were able to do absolutely nothing with their momentum. But I also illustrate or pointed out to illustrate that you can have a wild, improbable comeback win in the ninth and then be utter crap the next night. So
yeah, 100%. Speaking of, you mentioned Derek Hill, and one thing I did want to kind of talk about Phillies related before we get to the end, towards the end of the show. Is this their best bench that they've had in this 5-year run?
yeah, well, before I answer that, think about this bench in March.
No, it was not this bench. It was something completely different.
Maybe one of the worst benches I've seen. Given what your backup catching situation is. Was it Dylan Moore? I mean, Dylan Moore was horrible. Otto Kemp was terrible. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah.
So you fast forward and look at it now, and the versatility that you have with Derek Hill, who's been, his numbers are very good. He's been excellent defensively. He's been a spark plug guy, but like, he is so far out clutched what his numbers suggest he should be. It's just that, like, not only has he been pretty good offensively from a statistical standpoint, but every time it matters, draw a key walk, big base hit. Like, he's been unbelievable. Brian De La Cruz, like, I don't want to see him play every day, but he's been a revelation for this team.
Yeah.
That's not a spot he's supposed to win in yesterday. That's not an advantageous matchup for him. He had the huge hit in Minnesota last weekend. I mean, that guy's giving them, again, production, but also clutch production. And the Phillies, I will say, like, one of the sneaky things about them, like, they're not a good defensive team, but like, they have a lot of versatility. There's a lot of different things that Don Mattingly can do. One guy's out. You can line them up a lot of different ways with what Bryson Stott's able to do for you. Flipping Bohm on the corners. Harper can go from right to first. De La Cruz can play a couple different spots. Derek Hill can play all 3 spots for you. Like, you have some things that you can do. Edmundo Sosa obviously gives you a lot of versatility. And that's another thing. I don't have his recent numbers here.
10 for his last 26.
There you go. Like, and that kind of bears it out. Like, he's starting to give them bigger at bats, better at bats. And he was terrible for 4 months. Probably one of the things that has gone under the radar in terms of like what's wrong with the Phillies. Edmundo Sosa killed them this year.
Yeah.
But here he is now recently, and he's been a big contributor, kind of resurrecting his season. And so, yeah, like, all of a sudden this bench has gone from probably a profound weakness to one of its strengths.
Yeah, 100%. Not only that, I mean, so he's 10 for 26, 10 RBIs in his last 9 games, 3 extra base hits, 2 doubles and a triple. But there's one thing else with this, Bob, and we've discussed this in the past as well with this team. And it's the immeasurable, right? And what it is that what they bring energy wise to the team. And we talked about it. Remember last year when they called up Stubbs? We're like, why are they calling up Stubbs? It's like, well, because they feel like that there's something missing in the clubhouse energy wise. Now you have 4 guys on the bench, if you include Stubbs, who are energy guys, right? Who are vibes guys. And then you add Arise, who's a very similar type of player, right? Like, they bring some juice and energy, and that matters. Like, that momentum can carry a team. They can help you pass the baton and keep that thing going. That's what I really like about especially the 3, Sosa, Hill, and De La Cruz, is they bring that too. Yeah, they're being productive, but man, they get everybody fired up too. Yeah. And that matters. It matters in baseball, maybe more than any other sport. It matters. And I think that's an element that's maybe kind of going under the radar a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that when you have, 15 guys, 14, 15 position players that are all kind of doing it for you, all contributing, all rowing in the same direction, I think it makes the boat a little bit stronger, makes the boat a little bit faster in the race. You talk about subbing guys into the games later on, getting guys off their feet, and guys are more involved. Like, I think it creates like just a little bit more. We talked about this, right? With some of the things like Mattingly does, with some of these subs that he does in game. And like, I think that kind of it's almost like hockey line shifts in a way. Like, it just kind of creates a little extra motion, creates a little extra energy within a game. And this team, I think, is very vulnerable to falling in those lulls. As a veteran team that's been there before, it's a long season. These things are all true. And staying the course and being even keeled to a degree is obviously very important. But like, you need some additional force, some additional energy over the course of a season. And I think you're right on in that these guys have not only been productive, but they can provide that just from a personality standpoint as well. All right, you didn't let me get too negative there, so let's do a couple different things here. I would tell you that yesterday, I actually thought Christopher, I say this because we talked about it, I thought Christopher Sanchez was better yesterday than you did. What annoys me about him yesterday is, like, can you just field your position? Like, that was like my chief complaint. Like, he didn't walk anybody. And I don't think he should have been in the game in the 7th, actually. And when he started to get into trouble, I think he should have been out of the game as well. He crossed the 100-pitch threshold. I know that that's your guy. He's your ace. It felt like a lost game. So if nothing else yesterday, you want to say, like, we got Christopher through 7. Cool. It didn't work out. Like, whatever. I'm not going to kill Don Mattingly for letting him stay in the game in the 7th. He's been, like, okay, right? And if he fields his position yesterday, he gives up like 2 runs in 6 2/3. And, like, am I supposed to be upset about that? Like, I can't be. But I don't feel like right now I'm watching a guy that you hand the ball to in game 1 of a playoff series and saying, good luck. It doesn't feel like that. And they got to get him back there. They got 5 weeks to do it. And, it's been long enough now where I'm starting to wonder, like, is that guy coming back this year? Am I overreacting or what?
No, you're not overreacting. And I put a tweet out yesterday after he left the game about where he has been for a while now, Bob. And if you go back to the scoreless inning streak at the beginning of the season, right? The incredible 50 2/3 scoreless inning streak that he had. If you start with the next start after it ended, if you remember, against the Padres, still was a pretty good outing by him that game. I think it was seven innings, 1 run, whatever. It was a great game. If you start with the very next start, which starts June 8th, right? So we're a little over 2 months now, all right, pushing 3 months. Sanchez has made 14 starts. He has a 3.84 ERA, which isn't terrible, but it's not ace-worthy. But the more disturbing number to me is in 82 innings, 1.415 WHIP, and he's allowed 11 home runs in 82 innings. Those are things that are not typical Christopher Sanchez. Again, not bad, not like, oh my God, why is this guy in the rotation? But is that the guy you want going game 1 in the playoffs if he's pitching like that? Look, there's still time for him to fix this, and he can have his next 5 starts. He can go back to being awesome. And then it's like, see, that's the guy we thought he was going to be all along. That was just a stretch of games where he struggled. Okay, no problem. Fine. And that could be the case. But if we're starting the playoffs on August 24th, and I'm asked, Anthony, who would you have as your game 1 starter? It would be Jesus Luzardo right now. Again, this could change.
And if you remember,
Bob, this is your guy.
This is my guy. I think I said that Jesus Luzardo is better than Christopher Sanchez, and it sounded like fall out of your chair, Skip Bayless, hot takey. But by the way, Jesus Luzardo was not dazzling on Friday night.
No, he wasn't.
I do expect that they are going to rule the play that was a stop throwing error also to be a fielding error. I believe that that's going to go to 2 earned runs sometime this week.
Yeah, could well change.
They need to do the right thing. That first 2-run homer should not have counted against him. And you're like, who cares? They won the game. Why do you care so much? Because it's hurting my narrative. That's why. Look, man, here's the thing. Like, I agree with you. So, like, know that as I'm about to do this. But what if I come to you and say, are you really going to complain about a guy who is 3-0 in 5 starts this month? I believe they're 5-0 in the 5 starts, who has a 2.12 ERA and in 29 2/3 innings pitched has, allowed 7 earned runs. And, oh, by the way, like, he struck out 37 batters in those 29 innings. Like, oh, come on. Like 2.12 ERA in 5 starts this month, and we're like not impressed.
The strikeouts are still there. I think he's got, even in the 14 games that I looked at, 82 innings, I think it's like 94 strikeouts. Like, he's still striking guys out. Like, that's not going away. That's why I said it's not terrible. It's just, to me, not number one ace guy.
I just look at yesterday's start in particular, and like you can't do it. These at bats all happen. It's the way it goes. But maybe I'm overthinking the defensive part of it. But like, I mean, I know Larry Anderson and Fransky on the radio had said it when the Cardinals took the 2-0 lead. They're like, well, if he fields his position, it's tie game. And then you fast forward and it's the 7th inning and you're 1 out away, nobody on base, getting through 7. So it's 7, even with that in play, 7 innings, 3 runs, pretty good. You know, should have been 7 innings, 1 run. Instead, it's 7 innings, 4 runs because he doesn't field position. And then, oh, by the way, like you can't get anybody out with 2 outs in the 7th.
It could be. And listen, the other thing with that is this, and this could fall on the manager because Tim Mesa was warm and ready to go in the pen.
That's what I'm saying. Like, do I need Christopher Sanchez to throw 100? Was it about just giving him something to feel good about, or do I need Christopher Sanchez to throw 102 pitches down 3-0 in a game yesterday?
So you had Mesa ready, and JJ Weatherholt's coming up the bat, and I'm sitting there saying, all right, well, obviously Mesa's for Weatherholt. I mean, like as he's warming up, that's where I'm looking. Like, well, who's he coming in for? They had 3 righties in a row after that. I'm like, okay, it's got to be for Weatherholt. And then they let Sanchez pitch to Weatherholt.
It drove me absolutely crazy, man. And you're the one that said it because I'm not going to come on here and start picking apart Don Mattingly in the middle of a 9-game winning streak and one of the best wins that I can remember the last decade. But in the moment, I was like, what the hell is he doing? Get him out of the game. We don't need to use forget the matchup. But I'm just like, you're down 3 runs. You're not hitting. Why are you wasting this guy's bullets? He looks tired to begin with.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Thank you for opening that door for me.
Oh no, but maybe so maybe you're right. Maybe I'm being a little too hard on him. And in that case, you know, if you look at it from that perspective and say it was a better start than it appeared, than the numbers make it out to appear. Okay, fine.
Yeah, but I felt like he was like all right. And the thing that I was encouraged about was that I didn't see a million walks. You know what I mean? Like I was like, okay, you know, we're in the zone a little bit more here. He's running deeper counts, I know, but I thought that maybe that was a step in the right direction.
He's getting hit.
Yeah.
That's the thing. 92 hits in 82 innings, the last 82 innings. That's just not typical.
And some decent contact mixed in there too.
Yeah.
All right. I have to do this. I'm sorry.
I know where you're going.
So
you're going right to shortstop.
There's this magical team meeting on July 26th, and all the Phillies realized that they all could hit if they just tried to do less and pass the baton. Well, everyone got the message except for one guy, and it's the shortstop. Okay, here you go. Let's start with some nice things. I believe I didn't write it down. I think I looked earlier. Since the All-Star break, I think he's hitting like 273. Okay, that's fine. In 23 games in July, Trey Turner hit 287 with a 333 on-base percentage and a 564 slug. It's basically a 900 OPS. He was very good in the month of July. We sat here and said, hey, you know, in 23 he stunk and he turned it around, and maybe that's what he's going to do here again. Well, you know, you fast forward to this month, he's hitting 231. He's been especially awful lately. He actually started the month okay, but he's hitting 231, 307 on-base percentage with 321 slug. It's a 627 OPS. His last 10 games, he's hitting 211 with a 597 OPS. Okay, so in the midst of this Phillies resurgence offensively, their number 2 hole hitter has been absolutely terrible. It's not just that the stats are bad, and it's not just that he's bad defensively. It's that when he gets hits, they don't matter. And one of the most overlooked things that happened yesterday is not just that Kyle Schwarber hit the home run, it's that he had to hit the home run. Because if he simply just trotted down to first base, they weren't going to win the game in the 9th. And I don't even think that the guy would have moved the runner in the 10th to get the run across in extra innings. Kyle Schwarber, hit that home run as the shot clock expired, in my opinion, yesterday. And that's what was the true brilliance of the moment. Listen to this. This season, with runners in scoring position, Trey Turner is hitting 218 with a 624 OPS. He has a 689 OPS with anybody on base at all. With runners on second and third, he's 1 for 16. With the bases loaded, he's 0 for 7. With 2 outs and runners in scoring position, he's 9 for 53, which is a 184 average. Anything deemed late and close by Baseball Reference, he's 13 for 61. That's 213. Any game that's within 1 run while he's at the plate, he's hitting 224. Anything deemed high leverage by Baseball Reference this season, he's 10 for 63. And high leverage doesn't just mean late and close. That means any at bat that can have a drastic impact on the overall win probability. That can happen in the second inning. So anytime the at bat truly can flip the game probability, he's 10 for 63. That's 159 with a 462 on OPS. 462 OPS in 72 plate appearances. That like literally accounts for like 1/9 of his entire plate appearances over the course of a season. This guy stinks.
Glad you got that off your chest. Glad you got that off your chest. Look, there is no doubt that he has had any production he has had this year has seemed empty. It seemed empty. It seemed to come at times when it wasn't a big moment. Like I can't tell you when was Trey's last big moment. Right? Like I mean, he's had games where he's had 3-4 hits, right? I mean, whatever. Like I mean, he's got 17 home runs, right? I mean, he's driven in some runs. Like there have been things, but none of them just stick out to you because it just doesn't seem like it was part of something important.
Now you realize that we didn't have to do this. I did not have to do this today, but I'm doing this for Trey Turner.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for him. This is the thing that's going to get him going, right? Like I'm trying to reverse jinx this thing into existence.
Because you do that well.
I do it well. And it's time, Trey. You know, like he doesn't I know, like he doesn't stink. Like he doesn't like in an all-encompassing way stink. He's super talented and he tries hard and he is hitting the batting cage after games until his hands are bleeding. And like he wants to be better and like all those things. We all know. But my God, like, come on.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. And so I asked this question. Mike McGarry from the Atlantic City Press filled in on Philly Stoplight for Tim yesterday because Tim was flying to Seattle. And so I asked Mike McGarry, I said, would you consider not batting Trey Turner second? And if so, what would you do differently? And he wasn't ready to make the change. And I get why you're not. You're like winning 9 in a row. Offense is clicking right now. Why would you change anything? I get it. And what do you really do? And what are the options? Like who would you potentially put in that spot? Really, there's only 2 guys. One of them's Alec Boehm, the way he's hitting. But then do you take him out of the position where he's done really well, where he's driving in runs in that 5 spot? The other is Bryson Stott, which would make some sense.
Who, by the way, is slowing down a little bit here. Yeah. A couple decent swings yesterday, but he's slowing down a little bit. I think he's like 2 for his last 18.
But do you want to go 4 lefties in a row?
No.
Right? You don't want to do that. So really, there may not be an answer. You know what I would do, Bob, in all honesty? I would ask Harper to bat second. Go Schwarber Harper. Put Turner third.
Schwarber, Harper, Turner,
and then
Arise.
Yeah.
Schwarber. Okay. My only concern with this isn't the whole thing now that Bryce Harper feels so comfortable with Luis Arise hitting behind him and look at how good he's been. Does Bryce Harper trust Trey Turner?
Well, it doesn't matter because what I think ends up happening there is you've seen teams walk Kyle Schwarber. Cardinals walked Kyle Schwarber in the midst of an 0 for 4 the other night. I think it was Friday, right? He had a bad game. It was 0 for 4 and they intentionally walked him to get to Trey Turner. Teams will not pitch to Bryce Harper. And Harper will continue to get on base to pitch to Trey Turner. And if Turner,
well, I hate the idea of guys on base for Trey. Like, look, I mean, as I just said, Trey Turner has been absolutely dismal in situations of leverage and with runners in scoring position, and 2 outs. He's horrible. So in that way, I don't want it at all. But I will give you the flip side of it. Yes, now you got to come after Schwarber a little bit more. Maybe the give here is that you're putting a weak spot with runners in scoring position, which I also understand. Small sample size in the grand scheme of things, and you can flip those numbers in 2 weeks. And the upside in exchange for that is Schwarber's power production maybe jumps up a little bit. So you'd say, I'll take that. The other thing is, and they won't do this, but I kind of like the idea of Trey Turner with his speed and athleticism on base in front of a guy like Arise who sprays the ball all over the field. You can create a lot of chaos, first to thirds, hit and run.
Not only that, you know, when Trey gets on in front of Bryce Harper currently, Harper doesn't like guys running with him when he's at the plate. If Trey does get on, you can use him to steal a base now because Arise doesn't care. Right. And now all of a sudden, if Trey is on, maybe he steals second, a single by Arise scores a run.
Yeah. It's something to think about. And I mean, if you were to lay it out, like, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to do it.
Yeah.
But you need Trey Turner to be July Trey Turner, not
what he's been
April, May, June, and August Trey Turner.
Agreed.
So, you know, all right. Okay.
One last thing. And it's not going to be a long conversation, but you know, I told you I was watching the Brewers and the Braves last night, and they had Rob Manfred come on. First of all, I want to say this because I thought what a lot of people did yesterday was awesome. So, you know, the story with Carl Ravitch, that he got let go by ESPN, but he still called the game last night. They still let him call the Little League game last night. And everybody who came on, whether it was the players, I mean, Garrett Mitchell out in the field said something nice about Carl Ravitch. Chris Sale talked about how Carl Ravitch was like the voice of his childhood on ESPN watching baseball. And like everybody did a great job doing a tribute to Carl Ravitch. ESPN has to feel awful, right? After all that, after hearing all that, because it's like, what kind of mistake are we making here?
Yeah.
But that's not what I wanted to be. One last thing, because at one point they had Rob Manfred on, and Rob Manfred didn't really say much of anything exciting about, you know, the world of baseball, other than like the Little League Classic is going to be back next year, and that they'd like to do the Rickwood game again at some point, which is pretty cool. But he did say one thing. I want to read his one quote. He was talking about the labor negotiations, and see if you take anything from this, Bob. He said, "We're meeting regularly, which is good. We've had days where we've met with the players. It's early, but we've got a lot of work to do, and we're at it. Our goal is to make a deal. We want to make a deal. We want to play baseball next year. We are planning on playing baseball next year." Do you believe him?
Well,
is he just saying things that people want to hear?
I think so. You know, it's interesting if you feel like you're far apart in one way, saying like we're not going to start on time. You know, it's unlikely. It creates tension and pressure, right? Like it's sort of like the classic stare down. I think if you're Rob Manfred, though, you look at it the other way and say, like, one, I don't want to put everybody into a panic and everybody just crapping all over my sport for the remainder of the season and throughout the winter. Like, I want to put some optimism on this from a fan perspective. And then two, if you feel like as an ownership group, hey, like we think we control this, like we think we have the upper hand right now, whether or not they do, I don't know. But if you feel like you have the upper hand a little bit, you put pressure on the other side. Like here's the commissioner of baseball saying we expect to play as long as the Players Association, you know, plays ball with us. And so like, he's smart enough to know that everything that he says is going to be analyzed. I just wonder if it's one about trying to create some fan optimism about the overall sentiment of the sport and its direction, but also leaning on the players a little bit to say like, our expectation is that we're going to play. I don't know what your expectation is. You know, is it like that? And that's, I guess, the way I look at it.
And I think that's fair. I do think that's fair. I have one question off of that, though. You talk about them believing that they have leverage, and I agree with you. I do think that they believe that they have leverage. For kicks, let's say the World Series is the Milwaukee Brewers and the Tampa Bay Rays. Does that leverage change?
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know.
Right? I mean, two small money, small market teams playing for the championship.
Yeah.
Does that change the dynamic?
Could.
See, I think it would. I think at that point it would be like you cannot cry that there is a gap between the haves and the have-nots in the sport. You cannot, because if you have two teams that are have-nots, go to the World Series, it changes everything.
But then, like, you look at it in the same breath, and I say, like, well, the year prior, the Blue Jays spent a lot of money, and the Dodgers are the Dodgers. So, like, which one matters more? Like, yes, so I agree. I do agree with you. Like, I agree that it probably does change the leverage to a degree, but like, anything's possible. Like Leicester City won the Premier League a few years ago. It was like one of the more improbable.
Right.
Look at me going into my soccer bag here. But it was like this improbable out of nowhere, one of the longest shots in professional sports modern history in terms of where they're at the beginning of the season to winning it all. And then they faded away again. Like, just because it happens doesn't mean that it's like what's consistently going to occur either. So it's tough. It's tough to say. Like, I think it does, but like, when you get into the nuts and bolts of it and you're getting into these negotiations and you have these representatives and lawyers screaming at each other at the table, how much does it move it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it changes it. I do. Nobody would want to watch that World Series. Probably the lowest rated World Series in history. But I do think it would change the dynamic.
How do you even sell that World Series?
Yeah, it would change. It would change the dynamic for sure. Oh, God. But anyway, good conversation today. Yeah. Good episode. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to Phightin Words. Happy birthday to our friend Kyle Seiler, who checks in all the time.
Yeah, happy birthday,
today's his birthday. He's looking for a 10th win out of the Phillies. 10th.
Do they get it?
That'd be a great. Yes, I think they do.
They get it. And so, give me your official prediction for this series.
2 out of 3.
All right, you talked me into it. I'll say 2 out of 3, but I was going to come on and say lose 2 out of 3. So
they're going to win 2 out of 3. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget you can subscribe to Phightin Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Best place right here, YouTube. Click that thumbs up, ring the bell. If you're on mobile, hit that hype button. Let everybody know we're here. You'll never miss a show. You'll get us higher up in the Phillies algorithm on YouTube. And if you're listening in the podcast feed and you want to find us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@Phightin Words. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying thank you for tuning in, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you on Friday. I will be in Anaheim.
Wow.
When we record on Friday. Man, so
you guys are getting after it.
That'll be fun. We'll be checking in from out there. So we will talk to you on Friday.